The night sky above Tommy's house lit up with a flash of blue light. At first, he thought it was just another shooting star, but this one moved differently. It zigzagged through the clouds like a lost firefly, leaving a trail of sparkles behind it. Tommy pressed his face against his bedroom window, his eyes wide with wonder. The strange light was getting closer, and now he could see it wasn't just blue. It flickered with all sorts of colors, like a tiny rainbow racing through the dark. Crash! Something small hit the ground in his backyard, right next to his mother's flower garden. The impact was so quiet that his parents, watching TV downstairs, didn't even notice. But Tommy knew what he saw. He grabbed his flashlight, slipped on his shoes, and snuck outside through the back door. The summer night air was warm and filled with cricket sounds. Tommy's hands shook a little as he pointed his flashlight at the garden. There, between the roses and daisies, he saw something that made him gasp. A spaceship, but not like any he'd seen in movies or books. This one was tiny, no bigger than his mother's jewelry box. Its silver surface sparkled under his flashlight beam, and small trails of steam rose from its sides. The ship had weird symbols on it that glowed with a soft purple light. "Hello," Tommy whispered, kneeling down next to the tiny craft. "Is anyone in there?" A small hatch on top of the ship slowly opened. Tommy held his breath. A beam of light shot up into the air, and in it appeared a hologram of a girl. But she wasn't just any girl. She was tiny, maybe 3 inches tall, with silver blue skin and hair that looked like starlight. "Please don't be afraid," the tiny girl said in perfect English, though her voice had a musical quality to it. "My name is Zara. I come from very far away, and I need help." Tommy sat down in the grass, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm Tommy. Are you really an alien?" Zara's hologram nodded. "Yes, I come from a world where everyone is even smaller than me. They call me a giant there because I'm 3 inches tall." She looked sad for a moment. "But here on Earth, I must seem very small to you." Before Tommy could answer, warning lights started flashing on Zara's ship. "They're coming," she whispered, looking up at the sky with fear in her eyes. "I didn't think they'd find me so quickly." "Who's coming? Are you in trouble?" "My people. They don't want me to be here, but I had no choice." Zara's hologram flickered. "I need to show you something, Tommy. Something that will help you understand why I came to Earth." The hologram disappeared, and the tiny ship's hatch opened wider. A small platform rose up, and on it stood the real Zara, not just a hologram this time. She was even more amazing in person, her skin shimmering like moonlight on water. Zara raised her hand, and suddenly all the dead flowers in the garden came back to life. Wilted roses straightened and bloomed, and dried-up daisies became fresh and white again. Even the grass around her ship grew greener and healthier. "How did you do that?" Tommy asked in amazement. "My people have technology that can control things at their smallest parts. Atoms, molecules. We can heal, build, or change almost anything." She looked up at him with eyes that seemed to hold galaxies in them. "But now we need help. My whole world is dying, and I'm the only one who might be able to save it." Suddenly, more lights appeared in the sky, red ones this time, moving fast and getting closer. "They're here." Zara jumped back onto her ship's platform. "Tommy, I need to hide. Can you help me?" Tommy didn't hesitate. He scooped up the tiny ship, being extra careful, and hid it behind some flower pots. Just in time, the red lights passed overhead, searching. After a few tense minutes, they moved away. "Thank you," Zara said softly. "But this is only the beginning. Those ships will keep searching, and soon your whole world will know about us. I just hope." She paused, looking worried. "I just hope Earth is ready for what's coming." Tommy looked at the tiny alien girl, then at the garden she had brought back to life. He knew his life would never be the same after tonight, but something in his heart told him he needed to help Zara, no matter what dangers might come. High above them, More red lights appeared in the night sky, and somewhere in the distance, sirens began to wail. 3 days before crashing on Earth, Zara stood before the High Council of Micropolis, her head held high despite the whispers and stares. At 3 inches tall, she towered over the other council members who barely reached 1 inch. The Grand Chamber, hidden inside a crystal formation no bigger than an earth watermelon, sparkled with bioluminescent lights. "You ask too many questions, Observer Zara," Elder Vex said, his tiny form floating on a gravity pad. "The quarantine protocols are for everyone's safety. Even giants like yourself must obey our laws." Zara clenched her fists. Through the crystal walls, she could see the massive medical pods where thousands of her people lay in stasis, victims of the mysterious virus that was sweeping through their world. Her own parents were among them. "With respect, Elder," Zara's voice echoed in the chamber, "I've analyzed the virus data. Its pattern is too perfect, too designed. This isn't a natural outbreak." The council chamber erupted in shocked gasps. Elder Vex's face turned dark purple with anger. "You dare suggest? I suggest we look at the evidence." Zara pulled out a holographic projector from her silver uniform. Images of virus molecules filled the air. "Look at the structural patterns. Every mutation is precisely calculated. This virus was engineered to target specific genetic markers in our population." Security drones began to circle around her. Elder Vex raised his hand. "Observer Zara, you are hereby relieved of your duties. Report to Medical Station 6 for evaluation and possible quarantine." But Zara had prepared for this. She wasn't their top scientific observer for nothing. With a quick gesture, she activated the nanoshields in her uniform. The security drones bounced off harmlessly. "The truth isn't something you can quarantine," she said, backing toward the exit. "And I'm not letting you bury it along with our people." She ran, through crystal corridors and across molecular bridges, past the shocked faces of her tiny colleagues. Behind her, alarm signals pulsed through the biological computers that powered their city. Security forces mobilized, but they had never faced someone of Zora's size, who also possessed her technical knowledge. She reached the forbidden sector, the Advanced Technologies Wing. The doors were designed to keep out people her size, but Zara had spent months studying their patterns. With precise movements, she danced between the molecular scanners, making herself invisible to their detection systems. Inside lay her people's greatest secret, the quantum jump drive. It was experimental technology, capable of crossing vast distances by sliding between atomic spaces. The device itself was small even by her people's standards, a silver sphere the size of an earth marble. As she reached for it, a familiar voice stopped her. "I taught you too well, it seems." Zara turned to find Professor Chiron, her mentor and the only other giant she knew. At 2.5 inches tall, he had always understood her struggles. "The virus," Zara said. "You know I'm right about it." Chiron's eyes were sad. "Why do you think I helped you access those files? But stealing the jump drive isn't the answer. It's unstable, untested. They're dying, Chiron. Thousands already in stasis, more getting sick each day. We need help. From someone bigger than us, someone who can see the bigger picture." Security forces were closing in. Chiron looked at the door, then back at Zara. In one swift movement, he grabbed the jump drive and threw it to her. "Earth," he said quickly. "Their size, their technology. Primitive in some ways but advanced in others. Different enough to see what we might have missed. But Zara," his voice grew urgent, "the drive can only make one jump before needing to recharge. Make it count." The doors burst open. Elite security troops poured in, armed with molecular disruptors. Chiron stepped between them and Zara. "Go," he shouted. "Find the truth." Zara activated the drive. Reality twisted around her as she was compressed to the size of an atom, then expanded again. Her specially designed ship, barely bigger than a shoebox by Earth standards, materialized around her. The jump had worked, but not perfectly. Her ship tumbled through Earth's atmosphere, systems damaged from the unstable quantum transition. As she fought for control, her mind raced with questions. Who had engineered the virus? Why were the Council so desperate to keep it secret? And would Earth, this world of giants, help her save her people, or would they fear the microscopic civilization that had been hiding on their planet all along? Through her ship's view screen, she saw the lights of pursuit vessels emerging from quantum space. The Council weren't going to let her expose their secrets easily. But as her ship streaked toward a small backyard on Earth, Zora allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in months: hope. She thought of her parents in their stasis pods, of Chiron's sacrifice, of all the tiny lives hanging in the balance. Whatever secrets the Council was hiding, whatever dangers lay ahead on this giant world, she would find a way to save her people. The ground rushed up to meet her, and a new chapter in the history of both worlds was about to begin. Tommy's family greenhouse had seen better days. Brown leaves hung limply from dying plants, victims of last month's heatwave. But today, it would become the stage for something extraordinary. "Are you sure about this?" Tommy whispered, glancing nervously at the door. His older sister Emma stood guard outside, keeping watch for their parents. Zara's tiny form floated in the air, supported by her suit's gravity field. "Your Earth plants are perfect for demonstrating what my people can do. Watch closely." She raised her hands, and the air around her began to shimmer with microscopic lights. Billions of nanobots, each smaller than a dust particle, spreading out like a glittering mist. They moved with purpose, dancing through the air in complex patterns. "Every living thing is made of tiny building blocks," Zara explained, her voice filled with passion. "Your scientists call them cells, molecules, atoms. My people learned to speak their language." The nanobots reached a withered tomato plant. As Tommy watched in amazement, the brown leaves began to turn green again. But this was different from her trick with the garden flowers. This time, Zara was letting him see the whole process. Through a holographic display from her ship, Tommy could see what was happening at the microscopic level. The nanobots were repairing cell walls, rebuilding chloroplasts, restoring the delicate machinery of life itself. "This is incredible," Tommy breathed. "You're not just healing them, you're rebuilding them." "Exactly." Zora's eyes lit up. "But watch this. It gets better." She gestured at a cluster of unripe tomatoes. The nanobots swarmed around them, accelerating their growth. In seconds, they turned from green to bright red. One split open, revealing perfectly formed seeds inside. But something unexpected happened. The seeds began to sprout immediately, tiny vines growing at impossible speeds. They reached for the ceiling, sprouting leaves and flowers as they went. "Oops," Zara said, quickly directing her nanobots to slow the growth. "Sorry. Earth plants are more responsive to our technology than I expected. The building blocks of life here are eager." A loud buzzing interrupted them. Zara's ship, hidden among the plant pots, was flashing warning lights. "Energy signature detected," a computerized voice announced. "Orbital satellites are scanning this location." Emma burst through the door. "Guys, something weird is happening. The news is showing strange readings all over town, and there's a military helicopter flying circles nearby." Zara's face paled. "The nanobots. They must be giving off an energy signature that your world's technology can detect. I didn't think." She looked at the restored plants with worry. "My people designed our technology to be invisible to Earth's primitive scanning methods, but we never tested it on this scale." The plants weren't done surprising them. The accelerated tomato vines had started producing fruit again, but these tomatoes were different. They glowed with a faint blue light. "That's not supposed to happen," Zara muttered, flying closer to examine them. "The nanobots are adapting to Earth's biology, creating hybrid structures. This could be amazing or dangerous." Tommy's phone buzzed. Social media was exploding with reports of strange lights and mysteriously rejuvenated plants all over the neighborhood. Amateur videos showed gardens blooming out of season, trees growing inches in minutes. "Zara," Tommy said slowly, "I think your secret's getting out." But Zara wasn't listening. She was staring at the glowing tomatoes with intense concentration. "These hybrid structures, they're similar to something I've seen before." Her voice trembled. "The virus that's killing my people, it targets specific cellular structures. But these plants, the way they've adapted, they might hold the key to understanding it." The military helicopter's sound grew closer. Emma peeked through the greenhouse windows. "We've got company. Men in suits are talking to Mom and Dad." Zara quickly recalled her nanobots, but the changes they'd made couldn't be undone. The greenhouse was now a jungle of partially evolved earth plants, some glowing, others moving in ways plants definitely shouldn't move. "I need time to study these changes," Zara said urgently. "The way Earth's biology interacts with our technology. It's not random. There's a pattern here that might explain everything about the virus, about why the Council." She never finished her sentence. A new alarm blared from her ship, this one more urgent than before. The holographic display showed multiple objects entering Earth's atmosphere, using the same quantum signature as her ship. "The Council's ships," she whispered. "They're here." Tommy looked at the glowing plants, then at the approaching vehicles outside. "What do we do?" Zara's expression hardened with determination. "We need to move fast." But first, she flew to each glowing tomato, using her ship's systems to take detailed scans. "If I'm right about what these hybrid structures mean, then the Council's been lying about more than just the virus. They've been to Earth before." Emma called from the door. "The men in suits are heading toward the greenhouse." Zara quickly flew back to her ship. "Tommy, I need you to trust me. What I'm about to show you, it's going to change how you see everything. Your world, my world, the very nature of life itself." The greenhouse door handle began to turn. Above them, the military helicopter's searchlight painted the glass walls with harsh white light, and somewhere up in the darkening sky, ships from a microscopic civilization were about to make their presence known to Earth. Tommy grabbed Zara's ship and hid it in his jacket. "Whatever happens next," he said, "we're in this together." Zara nodded gratefully, but her expression was grim. She knew that after today, nothing would ever be the same for either of their worlds. The question was, would that change bring salvation or destruction? The Pentagon's emergency conference room buzzed with tension. On dozens of screens, satellite images showed an impossible sight. Hundreds of tiny ships, each no bigger than a coin, entering Earth's atmosphere in perfect formation. "Ladies and gentlemen," General Sarah Chen addressed the room. 12 hours ago, we detected the first quantum anomalies. Now we have this." She gestured to a sealed container on the table. Inside, one of the glowing tomatoes from Tommy's greenhouse pulsed with ethereal light. A scientist in a hazmat suit approached the container. "The cellular modifications are unlike anything we've seen. These plants aren't just enhanced. They're evolving along paths that shouldn't be possible." Meanwhile, across town, Tommy's house had become the center of a silent invasion. Men in dark suits maintained a perimeter while scientists set up mysterious equipment on the lawn. Tommy, Emma, and their parents sat in the living room, surrounded by stern-faced government agents. "Let me get this straight," Agent Rivera said, reviewing her notes. "You found a tiny spaceship, spoke with a 3-inch-tall alien, and watched her heal your plants." Tommy's parents looked bewildered, but Emma spoke up. "You've seen the greenhouse. How else do you explain it?" Hidden in Tommy's room upstairs, Zora worked frantically at her ship's controls. The holographic displays showed the Council's fleet spreading across the globe. But something about their pattern bothered her. "They're not searching," she muttered. "They're taking positions. But why?" Her ship's computer chimed with an analysis of the glowing tomato samples. As she read the results, her silver-blue skin paled. No, she whispered. "It can't be." The data showed something horrifying. The hybrid structures in the plants weren't accidents. They were activating dormant genetic codes that had been present in Earth's biology for thousands of years. Her people had been here before, long ago, seeding Earth's biosphere with hidden molecular machinery. Below, a new voice caught her attention. Through her ship's sensors, she could hear a familiar tone. Elder Vex, speaking to the government agents. "We mean no harm," his tiny hologram assured them. "We've come only to retrieve a dangerous fugitive, one who has stolen classified technology and threatens both our worlds." Tommy's voice rang out. "That's not true. Zara's trying to help her people." "Ah yes, the boy she corrupted with her lies." Elder Vex's hologram turned to Tommy. "Did she tell you about the virus? About how she's the only one immune? Did she tell you why?" In her room, Zara's hand shook as she pulled up her own medical scans. The immunity that had puzzled her for so long. Suddenly, it made terrible sense. A new alarm blared. Her ship's sensors detected quantum energy building up in the council vessels surrounding Earth. They weren't just taking positions, they were creating a containment field. Zara quick-linked to Tommy's phone, sending him a text. "Don't elite to them, activat the field. Earth's biosphere, well re-act." The plants were just beginning. But it was too late. Around the globe, the tiny ships pulsed with energy. Elder Vex's hologram smiled. "For the safety of both our worlds, we're establishing a quantum quarantine. No one in or out." The effects were immediate. Every plant touched by Zora's nanobots began to glow brighter. In labs across the world, scientists watched in horror as dormant genetic codes awakened. The molecular machinery, hidden in Earth's biology since ancient times, was activating. At the Pentagon, the glowing tomato suddenly burst, releasing clouds of luminescent spores. General Chen slammed her hand on the quarantine button, but the spores seemed to pass through the containment field like it wasn't there. "They're not Earth-based life forms anymore," the scientist breathed. "They're something else." Back at Tommy's house, Elder Vex's hologram flickered. "You see, Zara's immunity isn't natural. She's what we call a bridge, a being engineered to exist between our scale and yours. The virus wasn't killing our people, it was trying to change them." Zara's mind raced. The virus, the hidden codes in Earth's biology, her own unique size. It was all connected. The Council hadn't just visited Earth before, they'd been preparing it. But for what? She activated her ship's quantum scanner at full power, knowing it would reveal her location. The results confirmed her worst fears. Earth's entire biosphere was laced with dormant molecular machines, all connected in a vast, sleeping network. The Council's quarantine field wasn't containing something. It was waking it up. "Tommy," she called through his phone, no longer carrying a word. "Remember how I said I was a giant in my world? That wasn't an accident. I wasn't born this way. I was made. And I don't think I'm the only one they've been trying to change." Outside, the glowing plants were spreading, connecting, forming patterns. In the Pentagon conference room, General Chen watched as similar reports flooded in from around the world. Agent Rivera, at Tommy's house, received an urgent message on her phone and went pale. And high above Earth, more quantum ships appeared. But these weren't from the Council. They were ancient, awakening from hidden orbits, responding to the network coming alive below. Elder Vex's hologram watched it all with satisfaction. "The great evolution begins," he announced. "After 10,000 years, Earth is finally ready for ascension." Tommy looked up at his room, knowing Zara could hear him. "What's happening?" Zara's voice was grim as she responded through his phone. "They're not invading Earth, Tommy. They're activating it. My people, they'd been preparing your world for something. And we've just triggered the final phase." In the greenhouse, the hybrid plants pulsed in unison, like a vast network coming online. And in labs, homes, and secret facilities across the world, humans were about to discover that their entire understanding of life, evolution, and their place in the universe had been built on a carefully constructed lie. The world's greatest minds gathered in a hastily assembled command center beneath the Pentagon. Holographic displays showed the spreading network of transformed plants, now covering 20% of Earth's surface. But Dr. Sarah Chen, recently promoted to head of the Global Response Team, wasn't looking at the main screens. Her attention was fixed on a microscope feed showing something far more disturbing. "Human cells aren't immune," she announced to the room. "The changes we're seeing in plant life, they're starting to appear in animal tissue samples, including ours." On the other side of the world, Elder Vex addressed the United Nations through a specialized quantum projector. His tiny form, now visible to all, stood proudly on the speaker's podium. "Humanity should not fear what comes next," his voice rang through the assembly. "Your world was chosen eons ago for the Great Ascension. Every step of your evolution has been guided, prepared for this moment. And now, thanks to Zora's interference, the process has begun ahead of schedule." In the viewing gallery, Tommy watched with his family, now key witnesses in Earth's first contact situation. His phone buzzed with a message from Zora, who was working with a team of scientists in a secure lab below. "They're lying," her text read. "Check the plants from the greenhouse. The dormant codes, they're not about evolution. They're about control." Tommy slipped away from his family and made his way to the secure lab. Inside, he found Zora floating among a forest of holographic displays, her tiny form darting between streams of data. The glowing plants from his greenhouse were sealed in quantum-shielded containers, but their light seemed dimmer than before. "Look at this," Zora said as he entered. She projected a larger hologram showing molecular structures. "The network they're creating, it's not random. It's a quantum computer, using living tissue as processors. Every transformed plant, every affected cell, becomes part of their system." "But why?" Tommy asked. "What's the point of turning Earth into a giant computer?" "Because," a new voice said, "information is the ultimate currency of the universe." They turned to see Professor Chiron entering the lab, escorted by security guards. His tiny form showed signs of rough treatment, but his eyes were clear and determined. "Chiron," Zora flew to her mentor. "How did you escape the council?" "I didn't escape," he said grimly. "I was released. They wanted me to deliver a message." He looked up at Tommy, then back to Zora. "The virus in our world, it wasn't meant to kill us. It was a test run for the transformation process. Those who survived would become like you, Zora, bridges between scales of existence." On screens around the lab, alerts flashed as new data poured in. The transformed plants were releasing spores that carried the quantum changes on the wind. In major cities, people reported strange dreams, shared visions, moments of impossible connection with others. "The Council's real plan," Chiron continued, "is to turn Earth into the largest quantum computing network ever created. Every living thing, from bacteria to humans, would become part of it, a biological supercomputer capable of processing reality itself." "And my immunity?" Zara asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. "You were their prototype, a being capable of existing in multiple scales, interfacing directly with the quantum network. They planned to create more like you, slowly, over generations. But now..." An alarm blared through the UN building. On every screen, sensors showed massive energy signatures appearing in orbit. The ancient ships, dormant for millennia, were powering up. Elder Vex's voice echoed through the emergency channels. "The ships carry the original seed codes. Once activated, they'll release a quantum catalyst that will accelerate the transformation across the entire planet. Evolution in moments, rather than millennia." In the Pentagon Command Center, Dr. Chen watched in horror as the first catalyst particles were detected in the upper atmosphere. "If these readings are correct, full planetary transformation will occur in less than 48 hours. But Zara had stopped listening. She was staring at her own cellular scan, understanding finally dawning. "My size, my immunity. They weren't accidents or evolutionary steps. They're weapons. I'm a kill switch. Tommy looked at her in confusion, but Karen nodded slowly. The Council always builds in fail-safes. Your unique quantum signature, it could disrupt the entire network. But using it would mean destroying myself, Zara finished, and everyone like me in both our worlds. The choice crystallized before her. Allow Earth to be transformed into a vast quantum computer, its inhabitants forever altered and connected to the Council's network, or sacrifice herself and all her people who had survived the virus, the only other successful bridges. Outside, the sky began to shimmer with quantum energy. The ancient ships moved into position, preparing to release their catalysts. Earth's military forces launched missiles, but the ships existed partially in quantum space, making them nearly untouchable. Tommy looked at his phone, showing texts from Emma about strange feelings, new awareness, impossible knowledge flowing into her mind. The transformation was already beginning. There has to be another way, he said, turning to Zara. We can't just let them take over Earth, but you can't sacrifice your entire people. Zara flew to the container holding the glowing plants. Their light pulsed in sync now, like a heartbeat growing stronger. Through her quantum senses, she could feel the network expanding, could feel humanity starting to change, to connect, to become something both more and less than human. But she also felt something else, a pattern in the quantum noise, a hidden signal that didn't match the Council's technology. It was older, different, coming from somewhere deep beneath Earth's surface. Maybe, she said slowly, we've all been asking the wrong question. We keep thinking about stopping the transformation or letting it happen. But what if there's a third option? What if Earth has been preparing its own response all this time? She turned to Tommy, her eyes glowing with quantum energy. I need you to trust me one more time. And I need you to get me to the oldest place you know. Not a city, not a building. Somewhere that's been here since before humans walked the Earth. Because in that moment, Zara realized something that the Council, in all their advanced planning, had forgotten. Earth had its own story, its own path. And maybe, just maybe, it had left its own messages hidden in the quantum noise, waiting for someone who could exist between worlds to finally hear them. Above them, the ancient ships began their countdown. The choice that would determine the fate of two civilizations was about to be made. But first, Zara had a message to decode, one written in the quantum fabric of Earth itself. Deep beneath the Grand Canyon, in a cavern system untouched by human hands, Zara's tiny ship hovered before ancient rock walls that glowed with quantum signatures. Tommy stood beside her, his flashlight beam revealing crystalline formations that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. These caves, Zara said, her sensors scanning frantically. They're not just rock. They're receivers, tuned to quantum frequencies I've never seen before. Dr. Chen's voice crackled through Tommy's satellite phone. You have less than 18 hours before the catalyst reaches critical concentration. Whatever you're looking for. It's here, Zara interrupted. Earth's message. But it's not just one message. It's billions of them, written into the atomic structure of every crystal, every mineral vein. This planet, it's been recording everything since life first appeared. Above ground, the transformation accelerated. The quantum network spread like wildfire, connecting minds, reshaping biology. In cities worldwide, humans reported experiencing memories that weren't their own, understanding sciences they'd never studied. The Council's plan was working perfectly, too perfectly. Something's wrong. Professor Chiron's voice joined the call from his lab at the Pentagon. The network's growth rate exceeds all projections. The Council isn't just transforming Earth. They're going to burn it out. A planetary quantum computer of this scale, it would consume all biological energy within years. Tommy watched as Zora's ship interfaced with a particularly large crystal formation. Holographic displays erupted around them, showing streams of data so complex they made his eyes hurt. Earth knew, Zara whispered. It's been preparing defenses since the first time my people visited. Every extinction event, every major evolutionary shift. They weren't random. They were tests, trials, the planet's immune system learning and adapting. Her ship's computer chimed with an urgent alert. The crystal walls around them began to resonate at quantum frequencies, revealing hidden chambers deeper in the cave system. "Tommy," Zara's voice shook with excitement, "I need you to look at something. These cave paintings." His flashlight revealed ancient artwork covering the walls. But these weren't ordinary cave paintings. As he watched, quantum energy made them shift and change, telling a story that stretched back millions of years. The first visitors, Zara translated. They weren't the council. They were refugees, running from something. They tried to warn Earth about what was coming. In the Pentagon Command Center, Dr. Chen's team detected massive energy signatures emanating from similar cave systems worldwide. Something was awakening. The council didn't create the first bridges, Zora continued, her eyes wide as she processed the ancient data. Earth did. The planet has been gradually engineering its own defenders, using the quantum codes left behind by those first refugees. Everyone who survived the council's virus. We're not their prototypes. We're Earth's antibodies. Above them, the ancient ships released another wave of catalyst particles. But this time, something different happened. The transformed plants across the planet's surface didn't just absorb the particles, they responded. Professor Karen's voice became urgent. The network, its changing pattern. The council's lost control. In New York, Tokyo, London, strange crystalline structures began growing from the transformed plants, forming patterns that matched the cave systems. The quantum network wasn't just connecting life on Earth, it was connecting to something deeper, older, more powerful. My immunity, Zara said, finally understanding. It's not a kill switch, it's a key. She flew her ship to the center of the main chamber, where a single crystal spire rose from the ground. Earth has been waiting for someone who could exist between scales, someone who could bridge the gap between its defense system and the Council's network. Tommy's phone buzzed with messages from Emma. The shared consciousness affecting humanity was changing. Instead of being absorbed into the Council's network, people were connecting to something else, to Earth itself. The Council didn't choose Earth for their quantum computer, Zara declared. Earth chose them. Every step of their plan, every piece of technology they developed. They were being guided, manipulated into creating exactly what Earth needed to defend itself. But victory wasn't assured yet. The Council's ships, detecting the change in their network, began charging weapons. Elder Vex's voice boomed through every quantum channel. If we cannot have Earth's power, no one will. Zora looked at the crystal spire, then at Tommy. What I have to do next? It's dangerous. The planet's defense system needs a consciousness to direct it. A bridge between all scales of existence. I can do it, but you might not survive, Tommy finished. More than that, she said softly. If it works, I'll become something else. Part of Earth's quantum consciousness. I won't be me anymore. In orbit, the Council's ships fired their first shots, targeting the largest crystalline formations. They had seconds to decide. Wait, Professor Chiron cut in. The cave data, it shows another way. The first refugees, they didn't just leave warnings. They left a gift, a way to create multiple bridges simultaneously, using the quantum network itself. Zara's ship quickly processed the new data. He's right. If we can modify the catalyst particles, use them to trigger Earth's defense protocols instead of the Council's transformation, you won't have to sacrifice yourself, Tommy realized. Everyone connected to the network would become a bridge. Not exactly, Zara corrected. They become part of Earth's immune system, but still themselves. Connected, enhanced, but not consumed. A true symbiosis instead of the Council's forced evolution. More weapons fire rained from orbit. The crystal chambers shuddered. They had to act now. Zara's hands flew over her ship's controls, modifying the quantum codes. Tommy, I need you to do something crazy. When I say now, I need you to touch the spire. What? But the quantum energy would. Trust me, she said. Earth has been preparing humanity for this moment for longer than you know. Ready. Above them, the Council's ships launched their full assault. The ancient quantum network trembled, and in a cave system older than humanity itself, a boy and a tiny alien prepared to rewrite the rules of existence itself. Zara's fingers hovered over the final command. Now, Tommy, help me bridge the worlds. And with that choice, the true transformation of Earth was about to begin, not as a conquest, but as an awakening millions of years in the making. The moment Tommy's hand touched the crystal spire, the world changed forever. Quantum energy surged through his body, but instead of destroying him, it transformed him. Through newly awakened senses, he could suddenly perceive reality across multiple scales, from the cosmic dance of galaxies to the quantum flutter of electrons. And he wasn't alone. It's working. Zara's voice echoed both in his ears and directly in his mind. Her tiny form glowed with intense energy as she interfaced between her ship, the crystal network, and Earth's ancient defense system. The modified catalyst is spreading through the Council's network. Above them, the Council's weapons fire suddenly stopped. The ancient ships in orbit shuddered as Earth's quantum defense grid came fully online. Elder Vex's voice, now trembling with fear, echoed through the network. Impossible. The integration patterns, they're older than our civilization. Across the planet, humanity experienced the greatest awakening in its history. But unlike the Council's forced evolution, this change felt natural, right, as if they were finally becoming what they were always meant to be. Dr. Chen's voice came through the quantum link, filled with wonder. The crystalline structures, they're not just growing, they're revealing themselves. They've been here all along, waiting. Through his new awareness, Tommy could see the truth. Earth's crust was laced with quantum crystalline networks that predated even the dinosaurs. The first refugees, running from the same forces that had corrupted the Council, hadn't just left warnings. They'd transformed the entire planet into a quantum sanctuary. Tommy. Emma's consciousness touched his through the network. Everyone's changing. But it's not like before. We're not losing ourselves. We're becoming more. Zarad's ship interfaced with the central crystal spire, projecting a massive hologram that showed the true scale of what was happening. The Council's ships were being enveloped in quantum fields emanating from Earth itself. But instead of destroying them, the fields were healing them, purging the corruption that had twisted their society's original purpose. Professor Karen's consciousness joined the network. The first refugees, they were our ancestors. The Council's leadership erased our history, turned our search for sanctuary into a quest for power. But Earth remembered for us. In orbit, the ancient ships responded to new commands, not from the Council, but from Earth's awakened defense system. They began transmitting quantum signals across the galaxy, broadcasting on frequencies that had been silent for millions of years. They're calling the others, Zara realized. All the worlds where the refugees left their sanctuaries. They're all awakening. Elder Vex and the Council leadership found themselves surrounded by their own people, now freed from millennia of deception. The virus that had plagued their world hadn't been a weapon or a test. It had been Earth's attempt to restore their true nature, to transform them back into what they were meant to be. Through the quantum network, Tommy experienced fragments of that ancient history. He saw the refugees fleeing across space, saw them discovering Earth and recognizing its potential, not as a computer, but as a living sanctuary where life could evolve naturally into quantum awareness. They hadn't seeded Earth with control mechanisms, but with protective algorithms disguised as natural evolution. My size, Zura said softly, it wasn't random. Earth was trying to create beings who could bridge all scales of existence, who could help guide the awakening. The Council twisted that purpose, tried to weaponize it. But now, the crystal cavern filled with quantum light as the final phase of Earth's defense plan activated. The modified catalyst particles, now spread throughout the atmosphere, began their work. But instead of forcing a single transformation, they activated different potentials in each living thing they touched. Some humans, like Tommy, gained the ability to perceive quantum scales. Others developed different gifts: healing abilities, environmental awareness, technological intuition. The planet wasn't creating a uniformed collective, but a diverse quantum ecosystem. Dr. Chen's team reported similar variations in plant and animal life. Earth's biosphere wasn't being overwritten, it was being enhanced, each species finding its own unique role in the planetary quantum network. Through it all, Zara remained the key bridge, her unique nature allowing her to help guide and stabilize the transformations. But now she understood. She wasn't a giant among her people or tiny among humans. She was exactly the size she needed to be. The council ships, their crews now awakened to their true heritage, took up protective positions around Earth. The ancient quantum sanctuary was operational again, after millions of years of preparation, and it had already begun calling to other worlds, other peoples who needed sanctuary of their own. So what happens now? Tommy asked, his consciousness spanning multiple levels of reality. Zara flew up to his quantum-enhanced vision, her tiny form now radiating with purposeful energy. Now we learn who we really are, all of us. Earth isn't just a planet. It's a gateway, a teaching ground for species to discover their quantum nature safely. And we're its guardians. Professor Karen's consciousness added, the Council's mistake was trying to force instant transformation. True evolution happens gradually, with wisdom and purpose. Earth understood this. Now we all do. In the days that followed, humanity began exploring its new potential. The quantum network provided access to the combined knowledge of multiple civilizations, but it couldn't be misused or weaponized. Earth's defense systems made sure of that. People remained individuals, but connected, able to share experiences and understanding across all scales of existence. Zara found her true calling as a teacher and guide, helping both humans and her own people understand their new capabilities. The virus that had plagued her world was transformed into a healing agent, gradually awakening her people's forgotten abilities. The crystal caverns became centers of learning, where people could access Earth's ancient memories and study the quantum arts. The transformed plants evolved into a biological quantum internet, allowing instant communication and sharing of experiences across the planet. But most importantly, Earth had revealed its true nature, not as a resource to be used or a computer to be programmed, but as a living quantum sanctuary, a place where life could safely evolve beyond its physical limitations. Tommy stood at the entrance of the crystal cave, watching the sunset with both his physical and quantum senses. Beside him, Zara's tiny ship hovered, its quantum fields harmonizing with the planet's defense grid. You know, he said, I always wondered why we looked up at the stars, dreaming of what was out there. Now I understand. We weren't just looking for other life. We were remembering. Earth was calling us home. Zara's laugh chimed through both air and quantum fields. Home. And something more. A beginning. After all, being a sanctuary isn't the end of the story. It's just the start of a much bigger adventure. Above them, the stars twinkled with new meaning, each one potentially holding another quantum sanctuary waiting to be awakened. Earth's call had gone out across the galaxy, and the responses were just starting to come in. The choice that had seemed so impossible, between destruction and forced evolution, had transformed into something else entirely, an invitation to become part of a story that had begun millions of years ago and was only now reaching its next chapter. For Zara, once too large for her world, had helped reveal a universe where size didn't matter, only the size of one's connection to the grand quantum dance of existence itself. And in that dance, every being, from the smallest to the largest, had its own unique and vital part to play.